Hey Codosaurs, my name is Dr. J, and welcome back to this first episode of Codosaurs Programming Basics. This series of episodes is going to be teaching you some very fundamental concepts in computer science, like variables, constants, functions, and looping and branching. Now, if all of that sounds like gobbledygook to you, well, you're in the right place, because it's not going to remain that way for long. Stay tuned. So this is the first episode in the series about programming basics. If you have not yet covered the episodes in the playlist called Introduction to Codosaurs, then I recommend you click on the playlist above before continuing with this episode. Now today we're going to talk about constants. But before we do that, we're going to need a little bit of context. So I'm going to write a small program here that makes a simple square on the screen. So you'll remember a square is simply 4 repetitions of moving forwards and then turning right 90 degrees. So I'm going to quickly type that program in now. Remember, I always recommend that you first clear the screen and move the turtle and the camera to the home position. And then I'm going to type in move forward 50 centimeters and turn right 90 degrees. Now, because this is repetitive forward and turn right, I'm going to quickly teach you how to copy and paste. You simply hold down the Shift key while pressing the arrow keys, and you'll see some of the lines have turned blue. Those are the lines we're going to copy. I then press Ctrl C to copy them. I then move to where I want to paste them, and I hit Ctrl V, and you'll see it's duplicated that line. I'm going to hit Ctrl V 2 more times. There we have the 4 repetitions of our forward and turn right command. Finally, I'll run our program by pressing Ctrl full stop, and voila, there we have our square. So what would we have to do now if I said let's make the square slightly bigger? Well, you've got it. I have to go find every time I went forward and change those 50s to 100. So let me do that 4 times. I hit Ctrl dot. Oops, I've made an error. Where is that error? Yeah, there in that forward command. I hit Ctrl dot, and there I have the biggest square. Oh no, it still isn't large enough. So let's change the size to 150. So I'm going to go edit those again. I'm going to hit Ctrl dot to run it. Oh, no, I seem to have made a mistake again. So let me have a look again. And here I can see I typed 180 instead of 150. So let me fix that, run the program, and there I have my bigger square. Okay, so hopefully 2 things have come to mind. The first is, man, is it tedious having to change all those numbers, 4 of those numbers, every time I just want to change the size of the square. But the second thing you might have noticed is that doing tedious editing of a program can lead to lots of silly mistakes. The first time I left out a bracket when I was editing those numbers. The second time I typed the wrong number in there. Surely there's a better way than having to go through that every time we want to change our square's size. And that is where our first computer science concept comes in. The concept of a constant. You can think of a constant as simply something we want to give a name to. So in this case, maybe it's the size of a square. We'd want to give the name size to those numbers rather than typing them in. But maybe we'd want to change the angles, and then you'd call the constant angle. So let me show you how constants work. Creating constants is really easy, so I'm going to type it in, and then I'll talk about it. So what you can see is here on line 4, I've created a constant named size, and I've assigned 150 to that constant. Then whenever I wanted to use that constant, instead of putting 150 in brackets here, I've put the constant's name in brackets. So I'm moving forward the constant amount size, and I'm doing that 4 times. So now it's really easy. If I change that 150 to 100 and I rerun this program, you can see how quickly I'm able to change the size of our square. Far less tedious than having to change it in 4 places, and definitely no room for error this time. You merely have to change a single number and rerun the program. So as you can imagine, constants are a very useful thing in computer science, and actually quite a fundamental core concept. Firstly, and probably most importantly, they allow us to give names to these magical numbers that you often find littered around computer programs. This not only makes it easier for us in future to understand our own programs, but sometimes more importantly, it makes it easier for other people to understand what our program is all about. You often have words describing what your program's doing just through the names of the constants rather than mysterious numbers. The second useful thing about constants is they take away some of the tediousness in programming. You only have to change a constant in one place, and wherever it's used throughout your program, automatically update to reflect that new constant's value. And finally, as you saw, using constants often reduces the number of mistakes you're going to make in your program because you're not doing tedious editing of your computer program. One change and all across a program, the fix is made. So those are constants. Useful little critters, aren't they? How about for homework, you update your computer program there to also have a constant called angle, and then play with the size and angles by assigning different numbers to them and running your program, and see what you can explore now that you have a quick way to change the way your computer programs work. Beyond that, that's all the time we have for this episode. So this is Dr. J signing out. I'll see you next time.